Daftaboutcraft, the craft beer podcast.
Welcome to episode 44 of Daftaboutcraft, the craft beer podcast. I'm back, Dave D, and also back is
Dave B.
And welcome along. Thanks for joining us. It seems that we always say we've got loads and loads and loads this episode, but we seem to have more than ever this time. Now, having said that, we don't actually have an interview this time, but we've been speaking to lots of interesting little breweries recently, and we've got lots lined up for you over the months ahead now, which is great news. On this episode, we do have a new little feature called Barflies, which we'll be telling you about later.
And we also have lots of your favourites, such as Sam the Brewer's Wife and Tried and Tested. We also have Timothy Taylor's, who I never thought we would utter in the same breath as this podcast, but they have branched out into the craft beer world. They very kindly sent us some tins. You can see them probably everywhere. They are in a lot of supermarkets. We'll get onto that later and just have a little discussion about their first ever canned beer. Hype or Tripe features an old friend, doesn't it, Dave?
It does. Ben from Reckless Dweeb has been on the podcast before. He's been kind enough to send us a brand new beer. It's quite a big beer, and we're really looking forward to it. So we thought, well, big beer, Hype or Tripe is the place to slot that in. So we're going to try that out. We've also got a little appearance from Twisted Wheel. You might remember we had Anthony from Twisted Wheel on the podcast a few months ago, and we promised he'd be back every 3 months, and he'll be telling you what's happened with them, including a relocation to a different part of the country, so it's all change. But we will kick off with Brew to Me.
And just before we actually kick off with Brew to Me, I would just say, as someone who wasn't involved in the Missing Link bonus episode, which came out on Bank Holiday Monday, if you haven't listened to it, you really should. It is a fascinating insight into a brewery down in Sussex who not only offer a tap room, but a whole experience to go with it. Dave went and experienced everything they had to offer. You had a great time, which came across on the episode, and without blowing too much smoke up your bottom, it sounded like you had a great time, and it's a great episode and very much worth a listen.
Thank you very much. That's good to hear. No, it was a really nice place. You know, when you go somewhere and you think, I'm at home here, I like it here, I want to come again. That was one of those places, and hopefully that came across. Absolutely.
As I said to you in a note I sent you, if you want two very relaxing voices just to sort of while away 45 minutes, that is a pairing to be reckoned with.
I think what he's trying to say is that we nearly sent him to sleep on his commute, and that's what he's trying to say. Anyway, thank you, Dave, and if you haven't downloaded it, do it, and I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Our Missing Link bonus episode. Right, Dave's got a can in hand. What is it?
I have a beer from Broadtown Brewery, who I've been in conversation with for a little while. They are, like a lot of craft breweries, very, very busy, but very kindly sent out a pack of a lot of their beers. And when I say a lot, I do mean a lot. There was quite the selection I got in my box. They have traditional roots, which definitely comes through in some of the beers that they've sent. They're in bottles, although one of the bottles is a brand new Imperial Stout they've done, which I haven't tried yet. They cover a lot of styles, but they've also branched into cans. They've got a lager in a can, and they also have this beer, which is called Line of Sight, which is their signature IPA, 5.6%. They say on the back it is packed with citrus fruit aromas, juicy hop flavours, and a big malty backbone, a truly classy beer. Now, it sounds quite classical. However, there are 4 hops involved. There is a hop I've never heard of before called Barbe Rouge, also East Kent Goldings, and then Amarillo and Galaxy. It's an interesting blend.
It is, well, especially when I tell you that Barbe Rouge is actually a hop developed in Alsace in France. It's a French hop.
All right, okay, that is interesting. And right, so this doesn't pour it at all how I thought it would. I don't know if you can see that on my screen, but that is clear.
Yeah, and quite sort of caramelly in colour.
So it smells a bit caramelly as well. It does also smell citrusy. It smells quite sharp citrusy rather than fruity. As a style, it's heading more towards the West Coast, I would say, which would explain why it's the clarity in the glass.
Yeah.
Now, taste-wise, yeah, there's a little bit of caramel to start. I never really get massive amounts of fruit. Now, they're saying fruit aromas. They don't actually say it's going to be a fruity taste. It's not. Very hoppy. Not that malty, but malty enough, spicy on the back end. It's not at all what I expected.
No, nor what I expected, which can be good in a way because it's nice to have a curveball thrown your way sometimes.
They have sort of traditional roots. You know, some of the other beers they've sent me are quite traditional. There's a milk stout, which looks very nice as well, which I'm looking forward to. And there's another couple of sort of pails in bottles, which look like they might be of a more trad style. To put this in a can, I wouldn't have thought. I thought they might go for, we've done it before on this feature, haven't we? Where you get someone and they put Citra and Mosaic or Citra and Simcoe together, and that's the sort of, right, we'll put that in a can and see how it goes.
Well, I tell you what, this might be the perfect time then to pass over to Jason from Broadtown to tell us all about the brewery.
Hi, hello. My name is Jason Bailiff. I'm the owner and founder of Broadtown Brewery, which is down in Broadtown, just outside of Royal Wootton Bassett, just in Wiltshire. Set up the brewery in 2018, which really sort of stemmed from a passion and a hobby that I had for home brewing. Made the crazy idea one day of going out and buying a 625 litre FV, which then led me on to actually buy a full Braumeister kit, well, actually 2 Braumeisters, and all of the equipment that goes with it. It was a crazy idea. And since then, since 2019, when we went into really full commercial brewing, we're now, as a microbrewery, doing sort of 140 to 150,000 litres a year, which is an awful big step in such a small amount of time. But we're still living it. We still have the passion. I mean, we did 34 different beers in the last year and a half. So, and lots of different styles. But if you go on onto our website, you can see what we've achieved and what we've done. And also won 3 camera beer festivals, 2 as festival winners and 1 as a second place with one of our Belgian beers that we did. So, lots of progress, lots happening. But today, I understand you're going to be tasting Line of Sight. So, Line of Sight is actually our signature IPA, and it's a brewery with a depth of flavour and a real balanced hoppy bittering, synonymous with the style, really. We've sort of using a Maris Otter, Munich, Vienna oats, and torrefied wheat, as the grain bill that we were actually using to make this, and some quite sort of random hops that we put together with using East Kent Goldings, obviously, as the bittering hop, but then Amarillo, Galaxy, and Barbe Rouge to really give it those different flavours, that real sort of southern hemisphere, and also with Barbe Rouge being the French hop, really giving it that berries and fruity flavours in the background. So for me, it's a wonderful combination of all of this ingredients that we know we're very, very proud of. So yeast-wise, we just used a Firma Yale AY4, which is a really, really good, strong yeast that we can always rely on. And obviously, Burtonized water, as you always expect with this type of IPA. Hope you like it. We still love it. We always have it here down at the Hop Chapel here, which is obviously our tap room. Thank you for tasting our beer, and we look forward to see you all soon here at Broadtown Brewery.
Well, thanks to Jason there for the lowdown on Broadtown. Very interesting stuff. Dave was just saying to me there while Jason was talking, he likes this. It's a little bit different, not what he expected, a real variation of hops. And for a more traditional brewery to start canning with that sort of lineup of hops is quite something, isn't it?
It's got quite a dry finish as well. Now I've had a little bit more of it. Beer that it reminds me of the most, and it's actually a beer you've had recently as well with me, is the latest Ogham beer that we had.
Okay, yes.
It's along those lines. That's the kind of vibe I'm getting from it, which is a compliment because we both enjoyed that, and we were both quite taken with how different that was. Again,
it took us by surprise a bit because you're used to having these big, yellow, fruity beers, aren't we, a lot of the time, and not something that stands out from the crowd.
It is snappy. It is very crisp. I think it worked really well with a pub snack. A sausage roll with some caramelized onion chutney or something like that. That it sits well with that because that's doing all the work to cleanse your palate. Really interesting beer, that. Really like that quite a lot. What have you got? Right,
well, I have got a beer from a brewery I haven't tried before because that's the whole point of this feature. And the brewery is called Spookton. Now, Spookton are based on the Wirral in the northwest. and they've only been going since last spring, summer, May, June time. The guy behind it is a guy called John Pugh, who's a home brewer. As it usually happens, he started making his beers more and more. Family and friends tried them. They liked them. He took it to the next level, and before you know where you are, you're running a brewery. Really excited to try this. The beer I've got is called Aspirational Kickflip. Do you know what a kickflip is, Dave?
A kickflip is a skateboard trick.
Thought I was going to get you.
Nah. I never was a Tony Hawk person, but I knew people who were.
When was the last time you were on a skateboard, Dave?
Probably 25 years ago. I don't have the coordination for a skateboard.
I remember my brother had a skateboard one Christmas, it must have been, and I don't think I ever got on it because I knew what would happen. I'd just be on the floor. There's no point.
Yeah, I didn't really. I still don't get it now, how to do it. I think that part of my life has passed me by.
Yeah, you have to resign yourselves to some things. We're never going to be skateboarders. Right, so I poured this out.
That's nice.
Lovely yellowy orangey colour. Nice head on there. And this is a 5.2% pale.
Okay. Do you get to know the hops?
Mosaic, Cryo Mosaic, Brew 1 and Eldorado. Don't come across that much Brew 1 actually, do you?
I think it gets used a bit as a compliment. It sort of seems to get chucked in as a something, and it never features as the main hop, does it?
Yeah, that's very true actually, yeah. So what we're expecting here is a bit of berries, bit of pineapples, bit of citrus, all the good fruity stuff. So let's give it a whirl.
But perhaps more bitter than fruit?
Definitely a bitterness there. It smells fruity, tastes fruity at the very first bit, and then it turns to bitterness, but not a huge whack of bitterness, just a nice bit, enough to make you want to go back and take your next mouthful. That's nice, I like that.
What's Spookton's range like? Are they primarily pales?
Primarily pales. John sent me this one, West Coast IPA, and actually a black IPA as well. Actually, let's hand over to John now, and he can tell us all about the brewery.
Hello, thanks for letting me talk to you about our brewery. We're called Spookton, and we started in May or June of 2022. I was a home brewer for years and just was getting to the point where feedback was getting better and better, and started handing it out to a couple of local places, and sort of the feedback was good and sort of felt like maybe people would pay for it. And so just got to the point where we're like, well, why not just try this? We originally were contract cuckoo brewing at Allendale in the northeast of England, and then we're currently brewing at Farmyard down in Lancaster. It's a little bit closer to home, and the kit's a little bit bigger. I think the goal for us is to set up in our own premises, but the sort of cuckoo brew route was a really interesting one for us to get started, because we didn't have the money that we sort of felt that we needed to set up in a brewery or premises, do it out the way that we wanted to do it, with all the sort of costs associated with like flooring and walls and tap room and stuff like that. So we thought, we've got a little bit of money, so why not work on the recipes, get them brewed, get them into the market and see what people think, sell some of them, and get some feedback and go from there. So we're very much in that sort of loop of, we work on a beer, we brew it, we sell it, and then we brew the next one sort of thing, which is quite fun, really. My favorite beer currently from the lineup is a black IPA called Struggle Bus. It's a 5%, so it's not going to knock your socks off, but I think it's a pretty accessible black IPA. It's not like mega bitter or astringent or too roasty, but it still has those sorts of aromas, and then the hops hit you on the back end. It's called Struggle Bus because we brewed a black IPA in January of 2023, and everything's just a bit hard nowadays. But yeah, I'm proud of it, and I think it's pretty Moorish. One of our beers is called Imposter Syndrome, and it's a beer that I'm going to revisit soon, hopefully, and be able to brew again. It's a beer that, as a home brewer, I read a lot that Scott Janish had to write. He's a brewer in America. It was the beer that went through the most iterations prior to sort of being called finished. And I think it went through those revisions because I was just a bit like, well, what happens if it's rubbish, and what happens if no one wants to buy it, and it's going to be a nightmare. How am I going to tell my wife that no one's buying this beer because I haven't worked on it enough? And that it just very much sort of struck that sort of imposter syndrome feeling within me. And so I'm pleased with where I got to it at the end. We called it imposter syndrome because it was a bit like, well, I felt that we should be open with with how hard it is to produce something that we think is good sometimes. And I know that not everyone in the industry feels it, and not everyone in life feels it, I suppose, but it does seem to be a sort of a common feeling in the brewing industry, and I'm not really sure why. That's our story behind it. I mean, in 2 years' time, it'd be really great to be, if not set up in a premises, then sort of seriously far down the road. If we have a great 2023, then we'll be looking at that sooner rather than later. For us, it's very much linked to making sure that we do the things that we set out to do in terms of like our charitable donations, and making sure that sort of we still tick that box and support those organizations with our beers. And so we sort of want to make sure that we do everything at the right pace for us. And I think what we wouldn't want to do is rush into anything and then sort of find that we've got something wrong, I suppose. And sort of in reference to those charitable donations, so for every pint or can we brew, we donate 5p to charity, to try to keep the charity small and local so that sort of the money goes further. But we donate once we brew the beer rather than when we sell it. So even if you're sort of seeing our beer in a bottle shop or on the shelf or on the taps, the donation has already gone to a good cause and is already doing good. In the last year, we've donated to DEC Appeal, we've donated to Magic Breakfast, we've donated to Care for Calais, and then most recently to Soul Kitchen in Chester, who are a homeless charity who work with the homeless community and sort of offer support and friendship. Yeah, just a really good sort of grassroots support organization. And so what we wouldn't want to do is sort of cut the corner of, oh, well, we'd grow quicker if we didn't donate this money, because for me, it feels like the whole point is that we're here to make sure that people are doing good whilst having a great time.
Some really interesting stuff in there. Now, you heard also there, they started out at Allendale and now they're at Farmyard Brewing in Lancaster. But the aim is, I think, to get, like John said, to get their own kit in time, slowly, small steps. He doesn't want to be rushed. And this is a theme, again, we've found more and more recently. People want to take their time, just let things happen organically.
And again, without harping on too much as well, that feeds back into the Missing Link episode as well, doesn't it? Where the people who've got the bigger kits are helping those who want to get their foot on the ladder and grow. And it's really lovely part of the scene, I think, to show that there's always that willingness to help someone else get going rather than being left to their own devices.
What I liked about when John was talking then as well, he talked about another one of his beers called Imposter Syndrome. And named after something he suffers from because he feels he's a bit of an imposter.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And I'm hearing more and more of this. You know, other people we've had on the podcast have also said this. Sometimes they question what they're doing here. Should they be in this industry? It's really interesting to know this is a widespread thing, isn't it? Not just something that one or two people feel. A lot of people feel it. And like John said, not just in beer, but in the wider world as well.
Oh, yeah, 100%. 100%. I can definitely identify with that. As you and people who listen to the podcast know, I switched jobs just over a year ago, and I definitely still feel like that sometimes in the job, but definitely felt like it most of last year.
Brewers, you're not alone. You're not alone, a lot of you out there. Well, look, I think we've had two really good beers there, two quite different beers, but we've enjoyed both of them. And John has news from Spookton of two new beers.
We're doing a Brave Noise beer, which is 4.5% pale, and ours is going to have orange and lemon zest in the whirlpool, so it'll be really sort of fresh and zingy. And the sort of recipient of the proceeds of that beer is an organisation called Beers Without Beards, who are a sort of their reason is to sort of provide and facilitate spaces for women to enjoy beer, basically. And we want to try and be a little part of that and try and help that a little bit. And so the proceeds from sales of that beer is going towards their new mentorship fund that will be used to sort of assist women entering the craft beer industry. And then we're also brewing an 8% dipper called Octuple Threat, which is just a bit of a sort of a silly beer in time for festival season and the summer. And it's the biggest beer we've made so far. And yeah, we can't wait for that one either. You can find us online at spookton.co.uk, which is spookton.co.uk, or on social media, we're at Spookton Brewco. Would be really keen to hear what you think of our beers. Thanks very much.
Oh, thank you very much, John. That was a really, really interesting look at Spookton's past and present. Really enjoyed that beer. Got through it all while John was talking there. Really enjoyed it. And I was just looking at their website, actually. They've got mixed packs on there for £15, 3-can gift pack for £11. The beer I've just had, Aspirational Kick Flip, you can buy that for £3.90. Have a look on there. If you want to try something new, have a go at Spooked, and I think you'll be quite impressed with them. It's favourite beer time now, where we look at what we've been drinking since our last episode and tell you which beer we've enjoyed the most. And this section, we call it Tried and Tested. Right, Dave, what have you been drinking? What have you been enjoying the most?
There's a bit of a collaborative effort here, because regular listeners will know that the Arcade Tavern in Ipswich often pops up because it's probably the premier craft destination in the town, which I live very close to. Ipswich actually managed to secure a promotion up to the championship. I was there for the day. It was an amazing day to be a part of, and we had to start and then also go back to the arcade. First beer I had to start the day, because I knew it was going to be a long day, was a session IPA, and it was from McColl's Brewery, and it is called Nano. And it is a mere 2.1%. I mean, now, McColl's are a brewery that I've not really had a lot of. But I thought, you know what, I will give this a go, because it's exactly what I want to start the day. I was pleasantly surprised. It didn't fade away, even at 2.1. And we've talked about this before, but I did think, crikey, 3's fair enough. Get into a 2 beer, that's going to struggle to really pack much of a fruity hop. But it actually held up really well, and it probably compared very favourably to a few beers that were had later on at much stronger strengths.
I'll tell you what, though, it certainly lived up to its name then, if it was a session pale right at the start of your session.
Absolutely. It went down really well. I think if we weren't doing that day with the football and all that entailed, I could have easily sat there and had maybe another couple of those, because we sort of moved around a bit, and I had a schooner of cheese, which we talked about when we did pressure drop cheese before, so I had that. They also had some American beers on, so I tried sort of a couple of American beers. And I must say, for the price tag attached to them, they were fine. But the suspicion that we've had for a long time that these American beers that come over and sort of get hyped up or have a £2-3 premium on aren't that far removed from what we can get here now. And then also, the one thing that did stand out later in the night is it's still costing £9. The Daya beer, Hop City Collab, which features an American brewery. And I thought that was actually a bit of a Mickey take. I know we're on Tried and Tested, but that feels a lot.
I just feel as though I don't want to pay that much for beer anymore. I've done it in the past. I probably will do it in the future, but I'm really thinking a bit more about where I spend my money now. And £9 for a pint, essentially of Daya. But they're very, very good, we know this, but that's a lot of money. But of course, we don't know how much the venue is putting on that, do we?
The beer in question is called High Water Everywhere, in collaboration with Vitamin C Brewing over in Massachusetts and Northern Monk. I feel like that is taking liberties, to be perfectly honest, and that's not to knock the arcade. That feels like a Mickey take.
Yeah.
But anyway, I don't want to be too sour. It was a great day, and McColl's Nano is a really lovely session IPA. At 2.1%, you will struggle to find something that has as much flavour.
Weirdly enough, I'm also on the session IPA trail, because mine is a session IPA from Nothing Bound in Worcestershire. I'm often there in the tap room. I've been there a couple of times recently. Both times I've really enjoyed their Franklin Pale Ale, 3.8%. So somewhat heftier than your 2.1, but a real easy drinker. And when we were there last weekend, I was hoping they still did takeaway crowlers, but they didn't. But when I go again next time, I'm going to take my own bottle and get them to put a couple of pints in there, because this is just such a great, easy drinking beer. It's just Citra, Mosaic and Simcoe. Even my wife Lisa, she doesn't usually drink pints, but she had a pint. She really enjoyed it, and I've been with other people who've enjoyed it. It's a real easy drinking, lovely beer.
I don't know about you, but I do find now as well, in the course of how long we've done this podcast and talking about these beers now, if you go on a night out or even an afternoon or wherever you go, if you see the session beer, I'm so much more drawn to it because I know it should be actually really nice.
Yeah, really weird, because if you listen back to our early episodes, we'd try some of these lower ABV beers and say,
starts well, finishes badly.
Yeah.
Like, that was sort of the common refrain with it. It just...
Yeah.
it just, everything faded to water because there just was no care and attention put into the hops. But now
they start brilliantly and end brilliantly. They're the same all the way through. Sometimes develop a little bit as well, you know. And I find more and more, you know, I don't want a headache the next morning, so I'll try and stick to the lower ABV. Look, we're getting old, man. What are we doing? We're getting old.
There is that. I mean, I would say as well, probably just setting ourselves up to do a session IPA special at some point as well. Probably not long after I become a dad, because I really won't want to drink anything strong.
Yeah, bring on those 2% sessions.
Get in touch with us on Twitter and Instagram at Daftaboutcraft1.
It's Brewer's Wife time now on the podcast. Welcome, Sam from Copper Beach. How you doing, Sam?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Shame it's not with a beer this time.
I know, no beer this time, but we do have a funny story.
It's a bit of a two-parter, actually. I'm going to have to tell you kind of like the first part, and then we'll lead into what happened the other day. So recently, I don't know if you noticed, we got a new vehicle for the business, but this will just give you a bit of an insight into how our lives work at the moment and how quickly things happen. So it's obviously got to the point where luckily we're getting out there a bit more. We're having to deliver more keg and cask. And sticking that in the back of my little Peugeot 208 and Dan's Seat Leon was becoming a little bit unsustainable.
Yeah, but it was fun though, wasn't it?
I don't know if fun is the word when you're, I don't know, as weak as I am and you're trying to lug a massive keg out of the boot and get it onto a trolley that then doesn't flip without you holding the keg. Yeah, it became a little bit like this isn't going to work long term. So Dan said, you know, we really need to look into getting a better vehicle for the business. You know, we looked into vans and things like that. Nothing really seemed like the right solution. But then he had his heart set on like, you know, like a pickup truck type vehicle.
The way I interpret this is that this all happened very quickly.
Oh, yeah, I'm about to tell you how quickly it happened. Yeah. It was like everything in our life. It's like a bit of a conversation that's dabbled with here and there over the course of like a few weeks, but nothing ever seems like anything that's going to happen about it. And then all of a sudden,
boom,
Dan messaged me. He's like, right, I've seen a pickup truck. It's in Earlswood, which is quite close to, you know, where we live, sort of half an hour down the road. All the other ones we'd seen were quite far away. So he's like, I've seen it. It's perfect. We're going to go and look at it today. So I'm like, right, okay. So he came and picked us up and off we went to see this pickup truck. And the guy is sort of like, yeah, you know, I've got a few people coming to see it. Someone's travelling from quite far away. So if you want it.
Oh, he's planting the seeds.
Well, you know, he wants to sell his car at the end of the day, doesn't he? So he said, you know, you can put a deposit down on it and then it's yours. I'll turn the other people who are coming to view it away. So Dan's like, yeah, no problem. I'm stood there thinking, hang on a minute. How are we paying for this vehicle? So he puts this non-refundable cash deposit down and then he's like, right, you need to book an appointment with We Buy Any Car.
That was down to you.
Well, guess whose car was being sold to pay for this one?
So you didn't know about this?
Well, I mean, we'd had the discussion that if we were going to get rid of one of the cars, Dan's is slightly better than mine from a...
But faced with the reality, all of a sudden, that, oh, your car is going tomorrow.
No, not tomorrow, Dave. That afternoon, the same day. Oh. I didn't even know that's how these We Buy Any Car things work, but you quite literally go down, you say, I want to sell my car, they have a look at it, they give you the valuation, and then they literally take it off your hands there and then.
So you woke up that day with a car, with two cars between you, and you ended up without a car.
I went to bed with no car, yeah. I literally dropped my car in a Matalan car park near the house, and that was it. Never saw it again. But obviously now we have this fantastic pickup truck. So here is the second part of the story. As with anything that you buy, like, you know, when you move into your house for the first time, you start to discover all its quirks and things like that.
Yeah.
And how you don't quite know how to use the shower and, you know, or just silly things. Well, cars are a little bit similar when you get a new one. So it's a Nissan Navara truck and it's got an armadillo back. I've never heard of this.
All I know is it's quite good if you want to move sofas. I do know that.
Yeah, you've already taken advantage of the new vehicle, haven't you?
Absolutely.
So this armadillo back is like a kind of, you know, you pull it and it can seal the bed of the pickup truck. But it's a little bit temperamental, we have found.
Right.
Either it's a little bit temperamental or Dan hasn't quite figured out how to use it.
Operator error.
Yeah, I'll leave that up to interpretation. But anyway, so it was one morning about 3 or 4 weeks ago and I was getting our daughter ready and giving her breakfast. And when I came to the phone, I had a missed call from Dan. And that was weird because he'd only left for work for sort of 5 minutes previously. I thought, why is he calling me? So I called him back and he was a bit flustered. And he said, oh, I was calling you to see if you could go outside and see if there was a keg on the drive. And I was like, what? And he said, oh, it doesn't matter. I found it now. what do you mean you found it? So he said he was driving along the road outside where we lived, and this keg obviously fell off the back of the truck. An empty keg, I should add. An empty keg fell off the back of the truck. How he didn't hear it is absolutely beyond me.
One, surely you hear it. Two, surely you see it if you're looking in your mirror.
So we're exposing what an unobservant driver he is now.
I'm sure
as well.
he's not. He's a very good driver, really. Wow, it's a good job there was nothing...
I know. So imagine
near
if something was coming. Anyway, so he got all the way to the uni, which fair enough is only like a 5-6 minute drive. But he got to the uni, obviously got out of the truck and found that the back was open and a keg was missing. And he was like, oh my God.
Did he have to retrace his steps?
Yeah, so he obviously rang me first to see if it was on the drive, which it wasn't. And then he drove back, and luckily a passerby, or because it must have been in the middle of the road, I assume, had got out and put it to the side of the road. So he drove all the way back and found it on the side of the road, very near to our house.
I think we should point out that this is not a character assassination of Sam's husband, Dan. That's not what we're trying to do here. But I think the thing is that he's always so busy, and that's indicative of this industry. You're always so busy. When we try and track people down to come on the podcast and talk, one of the biggest problems we face is nailing somebody down to a time, because they've always got so many things on their mind. And that's the perfect example.
I mean, both parts of that story are a good example of just how things work in general life at the moment. Everything's so chaotic all the time. Things do happen overnight, and then you're so occupied with other things, and he's got 1,000,001 things on his mind that, a whole entire keg can fall off the back of your truck and you don't even notice.
I wonder which part of your house or part of your life you're going to lose tomorrow when you go to bed.
Oh God, there's a few things that I wouldn't mind getting rid of.
Daftaboutcraft.
Dave and I are always looking to do different things for the podcast, and we got to talking and we said, well, what about when we're out and about, we're in a good tap room, or we're in a good bar, or we're in a good pub, or in a good micro pub or something, and we sort of want to just sort of give a bit of a sense of experience of what we're getting and how this should be something that you should go find if it's in your local area, or if you're visiting a town or a city. And therefore, Barflies as a feature idea was born. I'm here at Mercato Metropolitano in Mayfair in London, where there is actually a brewery in the bottom of what I think is an old church, or certainly an old cathedral. Sadly, the brewery here, the German craft one, it isn't operational, but you still can try their beers on at the bar on the ground floor level. And for the setting alone, it's well worth coming to. Beer-wise, I've just had the Hells, which is enjoyable, and there's a Weiss beer and another beer which I'm going to go back to and try in a bit. But as I say, if you're in London and you want something a bit different setting-wise, Mercato Metropolitano is a really interesting spot, and you will not be short of food options either. There are no shortage of pop-up stands and some really different stuff. You can get pad thai, Malaysian street food, there's an Italian steakhouse, there's even lobster, oysters and wine if you feel so inclined. So have a look online, and if you're in the area, come and have a visit.
Hi Daves and all the Daftaboutcraft listeners out there. Just a quick update from me, Andy, at Hops at Home. Just a quick note on the beers that we've added recently to the website. This week we've had in 4 new beers from on board, including King Conker, the massive new Impy Stout they've just released. 6 cans from Little Critters down in Sheffield, a couple from Wensleydale, and then a restock of 2 of our favourite beers from the Northeast, Snake Eyes and 2x2 and 2x2's Southpaw, both tasting fantastic. They always do. Brilliant. If you ever see them on keg, buy them immediately. For Maybank Holiday number 2, we decided to go all lager style beers, so we had some Donzoko on the website, some brew by numbers, some simple things, fermentation, as well as some twice brewed, and some German cans too. Particular highlight from those is the Czech Dark Lager, the version of Juno Black. Really, really looking forward to trying the Nelson Weiss as well as the Delicioso from Donzoko too. The big cans, always good value for money and really good beer. And the week before last, we added Brew York's Eurovision style birthday beers, and we still have 1 set left. In terms of an offer for this pod, we've just decided to keep rolling with the 12 beers for 50 Daftaboutcraft bundle, simply because the bundles that we've already sent out have gone down really, really well, really good feedback. Seems to be no reason to stop offering this at the moment. People really enjoyed it. So it's 12 beers for 50 quid, 12 different beers. They're all from Northeast breweries, so it's a little bit of an introductory to some of the brilliant breweries that we have up here if you haven't tried them yet. Full Circle, Almasty, 2x2, Wylam, Twice Brewed. You might have heard of some of the McCalls. You might not have heard of them, but they may potentially be in there. But yeah, it's a really good way of potentially getting yourself into some new beers that you haven't tried before and seeing what we have to offer, really. And lastly, guys, I just wanted to reiterate how we get our beer out of this garage to your fridge. So we have 2 delivery services in operation. The local drop-offs are weekly and they are free for orders over £30, otherwise the £3 charge. They go from Tyne down to Seaham across to Stanley, so it's all of South Tyneside, lots and lots of Sunderland, quite a lot of Gateshead, and a little bit of County Durham are covered by that. Also our courier service, which is free on orders over £70, otherwise an £8 flat charge. And it's next day at DHL, usually goes out on a Wednesday, hit you on a Thursday, or Thursday to hit you on a Friday. We think that £70 mark is really, really competitive in comparison to other online retailers, and we'll keep it that way as long as we can. And that's it from us this time, guys. Remember, you can find us at hopsathome.co.uk, and our handle on most social media platforms is hopsathome. Cheers, bye.
And now it's time for Hype or Tripe.
Hi everyone, it's Ben here, the idiot behind Reckless Dweeb. So I've recently sent a little care package to Dave and Dave. It contained our latest offering, an Imperial Stout, batteries not included. It's 11.9%. It is a chocolate and coffee cake Imperial Dessert Stout, brewed in collaboration with those lovely, lovely rascals at Bang the Elephant. We had a lot of fun making this. It was quite a thick, heavy boy that made a bit of a mess, but we're quite pleased with it. Hope you guys enjoy.
Well, thank you very much, Ben. We're now going to give your beer the Hype or Tripe treatment. Batteries not included. I'm looking forward to this, Dave. What do you think?
I'm excited to try something from Ben because this is the first beer we've ever had from him, and I know he's not sort of brewed. What he does brew generally goes straight to keg or cask, so he doesn't actually have much available in bottles or cans yet.
Yeah, we had Ben on a previous episode, and I'd forgotten actually, of course. Yeah, most of his stuff does go out locally, so we don't get a chance to try it. Now, this beer has been going down an absolute storm on Untapped, as you can imagine, because it is a 11.9% coffee, chocolate, cake, stout. As you heard then from Ben, brewed with Bang the Elephant.
Who we've also had on.
Yeah. Oh, look.
And their big stouts are very, very good.
Indeed. I'm just looking at David. He's already got his beer open. Now, I didn't open mine because it's got a wax top, and I thought we could have a bit of fun trying to get the wax off.
Oh, I can tell you it's hard work.
Oh,
having done it earlier downstairs.
What is that way you're supposed to do to get it off? Have you got to warm it with your hand or something, or have I made that up?
I'm sure there's a sort of hack video on Facebook for it or something.
There is. I saw some earlier when I was looking, but I was going to spoil the fun. Anyway, what do you think when you get a beer and it's got a wax lid on? Because went through a bit of a phase when everybody was doing it. Now not many people do it. I think it's quite a novelty again now.
I think it doesn't matter how many people do it. It always looks good. It always stands out. Like, unfortunately now Dig Brew are defunct. But I always remember when they first came on the scene, they did bottles, and their wax labels were glow in the dark for it as well, which they were really cool. I like it, but it is a right pig to get off half the time.
I suppose the argument is, but you only usually find it on big sort of indulgent beers, don't you? So it's not like you're going to be scrabbling around trying to get half a dozen wax lids off of an evening because you're only going to have one of these beers.
I think I prefer it when it's just a lid rather than the whole like melted candle down the side type thing. That's a bit OTT for me.
Goodness, right. Well, I've got the lid off. It didn't take that long. But God, that smells good, doesn't it?
Doesn't it smell quite throwbacky for a big stout?
It's nice.
It's
chocolatey, isn't it, on the nose there?
It's chocolate malt, isn't it? But it is quite. You can tell that there's a sweetness to it.
I think I'm right in saying there's no adjuncts in this, is there?
No, that's why I paused, because I didn't want to say, I can tell there's lactose in it, because it doesn't have any lactose in it, but does still smell sweet enough, doesn't it?
Goodness me. I've got a bit of a thing with sweet stouts. That does taste quite sweet. Not cloyingly, sickeningly sweet, just a nice sweet, but I wasn't expecting that because there's no adjuncts.
Now, for me, chocolate is the dominant flavour, which I was surprised about. But in fairness, the label says it's chocolate and coffee. It's not coffee and chocolate. And it's the right way round, isn't it?
Definitely. I think a lot of the time when you have these stouts, coffee can take over and all you get is coffee. And really, if it's a chocolate and coffee stout, you want that big chocolatey hit, don't you? Wow, that is like it's like a pudding, isn't it? It's like a dessert.
It is, and I find if you have a little gap between having another sip, which you have to because it's 11.9%, then you get the bit of the cakey mouthfeel because it lingers and it sort of feels quite full and that sort of bit sort of dense sponge almost.
Yeah, I know what you mean. If I'm right, I think that when this was brewed at Reckless Dweeb's place, I remember seeing lots of pictures on Instagram, a real chocolatey mess on the floor, and I think it was interesting to brew this. It was a lot of mess was made, but I think it's worth it, judging from my couple of mouthfuls there. That does taste superb.
It's very, very good. The thing it reminds me the most of is, do you remember, I never really got to have them, so it was always a bit of a treat, but do you remember school dinners?
Do you know, I don't think I ever had a school dinner.
I only ever got to have it on Christmas. There was the Christmas thing where it was you got the Christmas school dinner and you didn't want to be the kid with packed lunch in because everyone's having the roast turkey. So perhaps I'm thinking of university when some of your meals are a little bit school dinnery with what you get. But what this reminds me of is, if you had a big tray of a chocolate sponge and it'd be cut into squares and then they'd have like chocolate custard on top or something.
Yes.
That's what this reminds me of.
Yeah, I remember seeing the other kids, because I used to go and eat my sandwiches in the hall and all the other kids were having their school dinners. And I remember seeing those little cut-up bits of whatever it was with chocolate custard. Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Wow, yeah. It's very smooth, isn't it? Very smooth.
It's very, very smooth, actually. And it pulls, actually, surprisingly thin.
Not a problem at all, though, to be honest.
No, it didn't come out and sort of do the almost separation bit where you get the light brown and dark brown bit where it's blending itself back together. It came out very, very dark, but relatively thin, but it holds so much flavour, it doesn't need to be thick.
And there's no head on it or anything, is there? It's just...
No, so it comes out sort of like oil or something, but not quite as viscous, just sort of...
That's it, yeah.
As we always say with these collabs, it's always fascinating to know, like Ben is unashamedly a garage brewer.
Yeah.
So how much influence here has come from the Bang the Elephant, how much brewing have they done, or how much... I wonder, but it's on Ben's kit, so...
Yeah, I think what we might find here, we should have actually asked Ben this question, but I'm going to guess this recipe was from Nigel at Bang the Elephant. Then he brought the recipe to Reckless Dweeb and they brewed it together on Ben's kit. That's how I'm thinking that probably works.
It does feel like a Bang the Elephant recipe, you're right, actually, having had a couple of theirs. And their stouts actually are probably, I think if you know, but if you don't, and I don't think it's blasphemous to say, they're not far off, or depending on your palate, the match of Emperors.
I had a couple recently, actually, and very, very good.
They stack up really well.
When Emperors goes and does his collabs with various breweries, I can guarantee they're going to get very good Untapped ratings. But in the same way, Bang the Elephant stouts get equally good ratings a lot of the time.
This is what I mean, but I think a lot of people think of Emperors, but not necessarily Bang the Elephant unless you know.
Yeah, exactly. But people should get to know. And quite quick.
And they do more than that, don't they? We first discovered them when we had the...
Balloon Juice,
which actually is one of the few beers still to this day that Katie, my wife, enjoyed.
Well, you'd be glad to know that that's now available again on Bang the Elephant's website, I noticed today.
I saw that and it nearly made me put an order in because she is getting ever closer, and I thought, well, perhaps it'd be something nice that she can look forward to in a few weeks' time. But
that first drink.
I don't think it'll be that, but...
No, it's going to be some nice wine, isn't it? That first drink
or a G&T or something,
after 9 months of being pregnant. I suppose you've been looking forward to it for a long time. It could be almost an anticlimax, couldn't it?
I think that's it. It's almost got to be what's been the thing you've missed the most. If it was me, like if it was you, if you and I had to do it for 9 months, what would you want as your first drink back?
I don't think it would be an Imperial Stout, as much as I enjoy it.
No, I agree.
It'd have to be something quite light. I mean, if you went 9-10 months without a beer and you went in and you weighed straight in with a 12% stout, you're going to know about it, aren't you? I think something light and fruity. Maybe I'd go for a sour. Don't know.
there's no beer that you automatically think, oh, that'd be the one I'd miss the most. Like, I know we're obviously both checkers, so there's not many beers that are recurring, are there?
No, not really. I mean, you could say something predictable like Steady Rolling Man from Dare, because we drink it quite a lot. If you're out and about and you see it and there's nothing else, we have it. Maybe it'd be something like that.
I never get a craving for it, but then I'd never had 9 months away where I couldn't have it.
No.
I would say it'd be a fascinating study, but it would absolutely torpedo the podcast. So,
yeah, no point in that, is there? Oh, yeah, talking about beers and beers that are available from different places, you put in an order recently. I think you mentioned it on a previous pod with a place in Germany.
Not even really a place, just a person.
How did you find this person?
Well, yeah, this came about from, I forget which Facebook group he advertised himself on. I sort of thought, well, I'm interested because it was all German beer and it was from a German guy. Markus Grundler is his name. I messaged him on Facebook Messenger and then we had a lovely conversation. He's a really, really nice guy, really passionate about the beer. And we sort of discussed what can I have? And I sort of said, look, I love German beers, but I don't need all the predictable stuff because I'll probably had it. And he was like, oh, yeah, great. We won't go for the Bayern Mafia as he described them. Well, I'll get you all the smaller stuff from that's a part of Germany. It was a 24-bottle order, and it came in one of the most impressively reinforced cardboard boxes I've ever seen. Like, if anything could have been packaged German, it was this box. It was superbly done. You could have moved house with some of the stuff in it. It was so solid. I placed that order on something like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, and it was with me the next Monday. And that was only because I happened to not be around for a couple of days. I think it actually arrived like on the Friday of the same week. And that was €75 all in.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, exactly. And the range of beers I've had so far now, there's a lot of, it's all kind of the same. So there's a lot of Helles, Weiss, and I think I've just got mainly Helles and Weiss beers. But if you're after your Dunkels and things like that, he can do it, because we sort of had a chat about Rausch beer and things like that. And I've just mispronounced Rausch beer, obviously having had...
Come on, Dave. You can do better than that.
Schlenkler Rauch beer. There we go. Bit better. But he's incredibly passionate. That just came across in the conversations we've had. And he's really keen to just sort of put together stuff.
So is he just a guy with a passion for German beer? Who
pretty much. He just seems to have, as he said, something like, I'll go down to my basement and make sure it's a special box type thing. So he's got just a whole load of stock, which he's happy to try and ship out. But as I say, his name is Markus Grundler. That's Markus with a K, and Grundler is Grundler. And I said that I would promote him on this, and he was very appreciative of it all.
Just thinking,
lovely guy.
Surely your go-to after 9 months of not having a beer would be some sort of German beer.
Well, I was thinking this. I wonder if it would be, but yeah, potentially. It'd probably be a wheat beer as well, I think. But it'd be a great experiment, because I don't know. It might be something really weird, like I really want a saison or something, but we'll never know. No, I don't intend to go that long. But
actually, talking about beers and getting a beer delivery from abroad, I sent some beers recently abroad myself to a fellow craft beer enthusiast in the Netherlands. Right, sent it by DHL, made sure that they took liquids and all this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Had it picked up here at the house, so I didn't have to take it to a drop-off point or anything. And it was supposed to be in Holland for, I don't know, about 3 or 4 days later or something. Anyway, it didn't arrive, and I'm thinking, where is this? Where is it? Sort of days went by, and about sort of 10 days later, I had a knock at the door, and a box of beer came back. It hadn't actually made it. Well, it got to Holland, and then because there was some documentation missing, it came back to me.
That just shows how convoluted it's got now to try and.
Yeah, exactly. I think I probably made a mistake somewhere on the website.
Even so, that in itself says it all. You're just shipping
a box of beers, yeah,
a box of beer from one country to another. That used to be very simple, and obviously isn't now. Whereas we know from how we've done it in the UK, and I'm sure other people who listen to the podcast know when they do it in the UK, that you can send it the very expensive way, which is APC, as we've found, which is the most reliable, or you can take your chances by filling a box with polystyrene or whatever you want to do to protect it, send it Royal Mail, and if you do either record it or just disclose it, and they say, what's in it? You just go, tins, and they send it. They don't care.
It's hard to know what to do for the best, isn't it, when sending beer? And this is a problem that a lot of breweries have as well when they're sending stuff out.
Like, a lot of places use DHL. I've found them and like other couriers are available, but this is just personal experience. I've found them very hit and miss. Some people have been spot on. I've had problems with other breweries sending me beer, like from Ordens and stuff, with them. APC's okay, but we've had problems with that as well, haven't we? Even when we've been in the delivery fee you have to pay on them is high.
I think, it's potluck. You can pay a premium and still get an unpremium service. And sometimes you can go for the cheapest option and get a decent service. I think it's...
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so if anybody out there is sending beers abroad, good luck, because that box of beers is still sat on my floor over here. I will try and send it back to Holland at some point, but,
It's such a shame, because you and I know of some, and I'm sure other people do as well, of some really good places. Do you remember, we tried to order from Holland, didn't we? Because Holland is able to get a lot of American stuff, and we did an order, didn't we? And that got lost.
Yeah, that never turned up.
We did get our money back, and the people that we ordered from were very, very good about it. But that was before all the red tape came in place, and now...
When you either receiving from or sending to overseas from here now, it's not as straightforward as it used to be, that's for sure.
Unless apparently you are getting this German guy.
Yeah, he sounds like the exception to the rule.
Absolutely nailed it.
Anyway, how's this stout faring?
It's going down quicker than I'd like, which is a compliment and also a problem for probably later on.
Well, we're nearly at the end of the podcast now, so that's
very true.
Good time to have it.
It's a very good beer, isn't it?
I'm sort of sipping it, but going back for a sip every few seconds. You can't gulp it back. You want to savour it, I think.
No, fair point.
But yeah, I mentioned before about those ratings on Untappd. They're all well into the fours, the ones that I saw.
And with good reason, I would say. I think the more I drink of it, and perhaps it's just because I have had a little bit of Bang the Elephant, but obviously, as we said at the start, this is the first Reckless Dweeb I've had. That malty, chocolatey cocoa bit in the middle to the back, that to me tastes very Bang the Elephant, which is what you sort of said. Perhaps the recipe is from Nigel, because it feels like that's there.
It would be really interesting to see if Reckless Dweeb goes on and does a big stout on his own. That would be really interesting to taste.
Yeah, 100%. But as a collab between the two of them, this works.
Yeah, what a great mix.
Absolutely. It's a very, very good beer.
There's still some bottles out there. If you just do a search on the internet, Batteries Not Included, it's called. Chocolate and Coffee Cake Imperial Stout. I think you'll find it. There are still some bottles out there. And if you can, order yourself one, because that is really good. Really good. Well, time flies. We're towards the end of the podcast now. And we've just got a bit more time for any other business, which is where we kind of wrap up anything we might want to talk about. And, well, recently we had contacts from Timothy Taylor's, who wanted to send us some beer. Now, we're always happy to pay for our beer, but if somebody contacts us and says, would you like us to send you some beer, we're always going to say yes. So this beer was given to us for free. Hands up, yeah, we didn't pay for it. And we thought, well, we've had it, let's talk about it. So this is a craft beer, what is being labelled as a craft beer, produced from the Titans of Cask, Timothy Taylor's, famous for their landlord, been going since 1858, so steeped in history. But can they brew a craft beer? Before we open it, Dave, what do you think?
Instinct says no, however, that's not to knock them, because I actually love a pint of Landlord. I think it's a great beer. If I'm in a proper cask pub and they have Landlord on, it will be something I'll definitely have a pint of, because it's a really, really good beer. Boltmaker's a good beer as well. I like Timothy Taylor's. I have no problem with them whatsoever. This isn't a cheap, let's have a dig out of...
No, not at all.
A traditional brewery trying to do craft. You know, you say yourself there with how long they've been going. 1858, that's a long, long time. That's a long time to get your roots put in the ground, so...
I'd like to think they can do it. Well, we'll find out. The beer they've produced is called Hopical Storm, which is a striking triple hopped pale ale. That's how they bill it. It's 4%, 3 hops, Cascade, Whitbread Goldings, and Chinook. and then dry hopped with Jester and Ernest. What's your first thought on that hop combination?
Great that they've used so many British things. I think that sort of shows they're sort of thinking, right, what do we know we can brew with? Second thought is, I don't think this is going to be very fruity.
Well, they say it's going to have flavours of mandarin, mango, passion fruit.
It's very clear. This is as clear as can be. It's not hazy.
I get a tiny bit of haze, but it is tiny. I've got to get the magnifying glass out for it.
I can read the other side of what's written on my glass, so I think for me that's clear.
Okay, right, I've had a sip. First thing, don't hate it. Second thing, don't love it. That's not doing a great deal. About you, Dave?
It doesn't taste of anything. I'm so sorry. It just doesn't taste of anything.
I'm kind of thinking, where's the fruit? No fruit. Okay, where's the bitterness? Oh, no bitterness. Then I'm thinking, what is there? And not a lot.
I mean, next to nothing for me. It's not so bad as you can't go, oh, this is flavoured water, because it's got that watery consistency. It doesn't have that, yet what does it actually taste of? What is the characteristic? I'm really struggling to find one.
Do you know what? This beer is available in cans. It's their first canned offering. It's available in a lot of supermarkets. I think it would taste better on cask, weirdly enough.
I agree with you. I think having that hand pull to inject a little bit of life into it actually might help.
I wouldn't be averse to trying that if I saw it in a pub on hand pull.
I think I'd have to now just to see if there's a difference. Well, it's not very good. I'm sorry, it's not.
If you think what else we've drunk on the podcast, when we started off this episode with Brew to Me, and I had my Spookton and you had your Broadtown, there was something going on with those beers. They pulled you in, you wanted more. There's probably a reason why this beer, according to their bump, has only 35 calories per 100 ml, because there's not much going on there.
Who are they after? Because your landlord drinker, are they going to move to, when they're at home, having this or a bottle of landlord? I think I know what I'd choose. It's so hard because I don't actually want to bag on it horribly, but at the same time, I can only be honest. And it just tastes of nothing. It is as bland can be. And again, I caveat that by saying I really like Timothy Taylor's. I do like them. I love Landlord. I think it's a great cask beer. This is not a good beer. Timothy Taylor's don't really care what I think. And they were good enough to send us the beer, so thank you very much for doing that. But not for me. Unfortunately, when we've seen these big cask producers moving into craft world and doing something a bit outside of their comfort zone, and I think it just comes across. There's just nothing there. I don't know about you. I want to find something to sort of say it's not terrible, and I think there's just nothing there.
I think terrible's pushing it a bit far.
Terrible is probably harsh. It's not terrible. It's not undrinkable, but you'd have it and you'd think, why did I have it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. It's kind of hollow, isn't it? Liquid that doesn't do much. You may as well just have a glass of water.
Yeah, you could have a glass of water and there wouldn't be a huge amount of difference.
I think what we're saying is, if you see this, by all means try it. I'll be interested in anybody's views out there, but I have seen a couple of other reviews which were equally scathing. I think have a pint of Landlord instead.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go, isn't it? Or even if you see this on your supermarket shop and you're thinking, should I chuck this in for £3 a can? And there's a bottle of Landlord there, and you think, well, I like Timothy Taylor's, have the bottle of Landlord. That is the better way to go. You'll enjoy that. Everyone enjoys that. I didn't enjoy that.
All right, well, there you go. Any other business with a look at Timothy Taylor's canned offerings? Don't think we'll be going back for any more anytime soon. Right, to end the podcast this time, we're going to hand over to Anthony Barrett from Twisted Wheel Brewery. Now, he was on the podcast about 3 months ago, after Twisted Wheel closed down, and he brought them back with their name, having worked for them previously. It's been all change at Twisted Wheel since then, and Anthony's going to tell you all about it.
Hi guys, hope all is well. Yeah, it's been a weird 3 months. Where we were brewing before, that didn't work out for a couple of reasons. So we've yet again had to move the brewery. We've moved it up to North Yorkshire, just outside of Pickering. Absolutely lovely place to be. It was actually a friend of mine who's taken a brewery back on that he used to own. I've known him for a lot of years. and he needed someone to come up and brew for him. So that's what we've ended up doing. With that, I've also brought the Twisted Wheel brand with me, so we will continue to brew and sell Twisted Wheel. It's a much bigger plant. It's a 30-barrel brewery. We have kegging, bottling and canning facilities on site as well, so it's a lot better for growth. I think it certainly seems like a positive move. So we're actually just getting the core range ready to go out now, so people haven't really been able to get hold of our beers again for about 4 weeks while we've got settled in up here, but hopefully soon we'll be able to get some small package out, which will be good because I'm constantly getting asked for it, and we should have a greater volume as well, so we should be able to distribute throughout the country like we used to do, and hopefully service a lot more of the customers we used to have. Well, thanks for having me on again, gents, and if there's anything else I can help with, give me a shout. Cheers.
Well, thanks very much, Anthony, there for the lowdown on Twisted Wheel. We shall come back to you in a few more months and see how it's going then. And that is just about it for this episode of Daftaboutcraft. You can catch us in 3 weeks' time at the end of May when there's another bank holiday. So after that, you'll be able to listen to us on episode 45 of Daftaboutcraft. Until then, goodbye.
I quite like that.
Daftaboutcraft, the craft beer podcast.